Well, we haven't done this for a while.
I'm actually very nervous.
I want to say happy Monday, but I don't want Joe to get upset.
Nah, you can say happy Monday. It is Monday.
Happy Monday, everybody. TGIM.
Happy Monday, yeah.
5 o'clock somewhere?
What's my...
5 o'clock somewhere? Yes.
Okay.
It is 5 o'clock somewhere. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to the Wise Nuts podcast channel, please do so. While we're at it right now, if you are watching us on Twitter and on YouTube, click that like button. It helps the algorithm. Also, wisenutspodcast.com. Our merch is available. Our Wise Nuts classics are available. Our new Epstein Didn't Kill Himself is available. We have a bunch of stuff out there. So wisenutspodcast.com.
My GoFundMe is still available if you guys want to donate.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, it is. Absolutely. But we got a very interesting show. We wanted to do this one live because we wanted individuals to call in as well. Because when you go to these council meetings, whether it's in the city of Glendale, Los Angeles, Burbank, doesn't really matter. I think it's the Brown Act, right? It's the Brown Act where an individual goes up, speaks to council members, and the council has to sit there very quietly and just listen to the individual. And then they go into a briefing room and they sit down, they have a conversation, they come back and they address certain questions that were asked.
What was the history behind that? Do you know?
I don't know, man.
Do you happen to know, Bradley, as far as why the Brown Act was implemented? Like, because it feels like even when we were attending the GUSD meetings a couple of years ago, it just feels like you're being ignored, like, because they're not allowed to respond to you, like, yeah, well, my kid is like, say something, and they're not allowed to, right?
Yeah, they just sit there and they stare at you like zombies, and it frustrates a lot of people.
Yeah, it looks like you don't care because why aren't you responding to me? Because most people probably till today don't know they're not allowed to respond to you, so they go home upset, like, these guys don't care about anything I have to say. No, they're not allowed to. So actually, we'll look while you guys talk. I'll look into.
Okay, you look into.
I'm curious how and where it was implemented.
No problem. All right, so we want to thank you for taking time out of your Monday to be with us. For those of you tuning in, we see Bradley every Tuesday with the city of Glendale. He's actually part of Glendale's community development, or head of Glendale's community development. A lot of things go through you and obviously through the city council before it basically is built up at this point. So there's a lot of questions that we have. Obviously, there's a lot of questions people are going to have. One of the main things that we want to talk about is these apartment building or condominiums, or what else was it? It was affordable housing, quote unquote, that wants to be built all over Montrose and Glendale. So we want to really dive into that right away. Yeah. And whether it's debunking the myth or actually bringing it to light at this point. So what's going on? Because what the city of Glendale has been saying is completely different than what people online have been saying.
It has been two very different conversations, and thank you for having me here with you guys this evening. And that is really kind of what we want to address. We've been doing some additional public meetings to discuss this, but we are hearing, I think a lot of narratives have been going around, or some information that is upsetting people because they're worried. They're worried about what their community is going to look like. They're worried about what their neighborhood is going to look like. So I guess if I started from the beginning, we are working on a project that we call the land use element. And the best way I can describe that in kind of layman's terms, it's a 50,000 foot level, kind of, this is what we want our community to look like in the future, usually 30 years, 40 years ahead of time. We typically put some sort of classifications on our properties based on how they would be used, what they could be used for. And we haven't updated this in about 30 years. And that's a bit of a problem because you want that to align with other elements, what's part of the general plan, which kind of dictates the city's growth. As part of that, we are looking at a number of properties, even some right around where we are today, of potential changes in how they could be used or the amount of building that could go on there. As part of that, we are looking at some of the city parcels as well. We have a lot of vacant parking lots around the city. And what we do during this period is we look at what could potentially go there, but that doesn't mean that it would go there, right? We're studying. We do this with a lot of different community plans where we basically come up with some ideas or theories of what could happen. We run it through a study to understand if that could even happen. And then there's another layer of policy that comes later on for it that actually could create those regulations that could allow or not allow certain things to occur. And we're many steps back from that right now. Right now, we're looking at what could potentially happen, but not necessarily what will happen. And we're out there getting public feedback on some of these proposals and considerations because we want to know whether or not it's something that's liked or disliked. But there's also a number of different components as to why we study these. I'll jump straight to the point, the ones that have been concerning.
Well, before you go to that one, why parking lots? Because as it is right now, especially in downtown Glendale, parking is a massive issue. I get it. We got a bunch of parking structures here and there, from the Americana to the Glendale Galleria, and obviously parking structures over on Arzach, and then obviously there's the other one right next to the gallery as well. But anytime you pull into those parking structures, you're driving around for at least 20, 30 minutes looking for parking, especially the free parking structures. So now that there's talks of going after parking lots and building there, is the infrastructure ready for that? Are the people ready for that?
And that is exactly what this study would consider. But I would actually go a couple steps before that. Look, we're not planning to build anything there right now. Right now, we're studying what could potentially occur there. But it doesn't mean that's what will happen, right? That is something that's really important I want to make note of. I know that there's been a lot of comments in the community that we already have a proposal in our hand for one of the parking lots in Montrose, that we're going to build, I think it's 500 public housing units. None of these things are actually happening. We are looking at potential future development, if that could happen, or zoning changes that could maybe permit some sort of development, future zoning changes, actually. That's not even what's on the table right now. In part of this study looks at what those impacts would be. Could our infrastructure system handle a change? Even if it's a modest change, can the traffic system handle it? Can our power handle it? Can our water handle it? Can public safety's response times handle it? And that's where we are right now. We're studying that. But all of the things regarding that there's a definite development proposal, that we're putting all these affordable housing units on there, that is not true. That is not what we're looking at. That's not what we're considering. Right now, that property already has a residential zoning on it. If we're talking about the large lot in Montrose, for example, it already is zoned for, I believe it's R3050. So,
and where is it located exactly? Right,
that would be on Florencita.
Okay,
right behind kind of the main strip there on Honolulu in Montrose.
Yeah.
It already has a residential zoning classification to it. R3050 is what we call it, one dwelling unit for every 300 or 3,050 square feet. But the city, we don't have an interest in actually developing it. Part of what we're doing here is we're also trying to show, one of the things we're concerned about, I would say, is that we have seen kind of a scope creep from the state in terms of putting regulations, rules, policies on our plate that we don't really have a say in. Density bonus is a good one, right? Being able to add, 50% or more to what was already allowed to be built there before. SB 79 has been a big point of conversation lately. AB 2097, which basically allows projects to get away with no parking. And while some of these bills and some of these rules and regulations may be well intended, they're not tailored for each specific city, right? They're not allowing us to retain local control in a lot of ways. And what we're doing is we're looking at this kind of consideration of what's an overlay zoning for some of these properties, is trying to be out in front of the state, if you will.
So what if you were to push back on the city and say, hey, listen, our infrastructure is not ready for this? Because truly, I don't think it is. As somebody who's been living in Glendale for 35 years, you see our utilities continue to climb. You see the traffic continue to increase. And now we're talking about moving this to Montrose. Montrose is a phenomenal area. It's a quiet neighborhood. Everybody knows everybody. And all of a sudden you want to bring in, and again, this is allegedly, but or talks of it, affordable housing in an area where it's like, dude, just leave that area alone. As it is, it does get busy in Montrose, especially when there's events going on. The cruise nights, or not the cruise nights, the Oktoberfest and all the stuff.
The farmers market.
Yeah, the farmers market that goes on. Now you're gonna build. How many units did they say that they were talking about?
Well, we've heard 500. If I can also add on to that, the overlay that we're looking at would, right now you could build with the current zoning about 27 units, I think 29. With what we're proposing, not even proposing for development, it's just what we're studying. Actually, let me be very clear about that. I think it would be 87.
So why not push back to the state and say, hey, listen, we're not ready for this infrastructurally?
The state's not pushing us to do that now. What we're worried about is that they may come in and start putting some of those heavy-handed regulations on us for our own properties that are, in their mind, not being utilized.
So the one that you're referring to as the city's properties, is that the Surplus Land Act that they're?
That's part of the conversation too.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Because how many of these, is it 16 or how many lands?
I think it's a total of 16 if I'm not mistaken.
That the city owns, and the state of California is trying to push the SLA so that you guys can develop these, right?
When we did our declaration of surplus land prior to our council session, I believe that was in March of 2025, we had been talking with some real estate and economic consultants who work with the state often with SLA. And they had actually expressed concern to us that, look, from his experience, the state changes these rules every 90 days. Try to declare these as surplus land now, so hopefully that you're grandfathered in on the older rules, because we essentially wouldn't want to see them make it worse for us, right? More units, denser, more affordable units, and not those are necessarily bad things. Again, it's an approach that's not tailored to us, right? It's a statewide blanket approach. I typically refer to it as a hatchet approach rather than a scalpel.
See, from my experience now, especially back in 2023 and 2024, when we were going to like GUSD board meetings and listening in on what was going on, we're at the mercy of the state at this point. I mean, I get it. You're talking about there's a whole blanket policy with the state. It's inevitable at this point. I mean, we can beat around the bush as much as we want. You can say that, it's a blanket approach by the state. The city's doing whatever they can, but at the end of the day, whatever comes from up top is coming from up top. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
But is the city, for example, for instance, the school board was kind of, I guess, using as
it's a scapegoat.
Well, no, their claim was that if we don't participate in the programs that the state is mandating, then we lose funding. Does the same apply to, say, the city of Glendale as far as building permits and codes and zoning goes? Like, do you guys have any type of state or federal funding that's going to be cut if you don't, for example, oblige by the SB 79 or SB 9 or the SLA or whatever else they're shoving down your throats? Or
kind of depends on the rule. I know that we've been asked on several occasions to reconsider some regulations that we have now that may be in conflict with the state, and they'll recommend taking it to the district attorney. That's part of what we're concerned about. And actually, to the point you made of there are things just kind of being pushed upon us. What we're trying to do now is what I would consider to be a defensive or a proactive approach, right? We've seen density bonus, a number of other rules come down, and a lot of the community said, why didn't we do anything about it? Well, we didn't see it coming. So now we're trying to look at this a little more critically and see maybe there is stuff coming that we're not maybe paying attention to. Let's get into a position where maybe we protect ourselves a little bit. I can also go to the state and say, look, we're not opposing affordable housing necessarily. And I will say flatly that I don't think there's a city in this region that has done more for affordable housing than this city. This city, the city council, our entire housing committee, my staff, we have the largest affordable housing development in the state under construction now. Our Section 8 program has been high performing according to HUD for 24 years in a row. We've done a lot. And what we want is for them to, hopefully work with us a little bit more, or to see us making these kind of efforts as good faith. And that maybe we don't get actions that I think sometimes we even look as kind of punitive, right? It's a very heavy-handed approach forcing us to allow certain developments that maybe are not compatible with the city and with this community. And we've heard it from the community many times.
Now, first, there's a question here from one of our viewers saying, does the city look at all as far as, for instance, if you're adding more affordable housing or adding more units, are you also adding more personnel to the fire department, police department, and whatever else to support the city? Because I would imagine that's part of the studies you guys are doing, right?
That is part of the environmental review that we do. In fact, the study that we're working on now for the land use element, we're not quite there yet. We're still at a draft plan. But when we go to the environmental portion, we will be studying those impacts on public safety, energy, utilities, things of that nature. It's not always looked at as on a project by project basis, right? So if it's a density bonus project, that's pretty much allowed by state. And it is a very fair question. In fact, council recently asked us to return at some point here in the future with essentially a study and analysis that looks at that. How many of these things being pushed down are adding to the burden of our police, our fire, our energy, our water, and it's not being funded, right? It's not being taken care of by another resource. That's another obligation and burden that ends up falling on the city, and things get more difficult in that regard.
Yeah, because one of my biggest concerns, because we have a phenomenal fire department and a phenomenal police department. Shout out to both of our chiefs there. But our big concern also is the utilities as well. As I mentioned a little while ago, water, power, trash. Our water bill and power bill has been going up every single quarter, every single year. And Now we want to add in, as I said, allegedly 500 units. Are we ready to support that on the grid through trash, through water? I really don't think we are. Because when the city council goes in there and they talk about like allegedly rolling blackouts where turn off your AC from this time to this time so we could save some energy. Don't charge your car at this time. All right. So what you want us to do is, and again, this isn't going to you, Bradley. What they want us to do is get an electric car to save the environment, but don't charge your car from this time to this time and make sure your AC is off. My reaction to that is, or my question is, why are you pushing all this down our throat and then expecting XYZ from us? I'll turn my AC off when the Americana turns their AC off. I won't charge my car when all those charging ports at the In and Out, at the Americana, shut them off as well. It's
Well, here's what you have to look at when it comes to electricity, water, right? Is in any other industry that I'm aware of, correct me if I'm wrong. For example, let's say if you're in textile, right? The more you buy, are you saving money or are you paying more per unit?
Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer questions for you regarding energy. That's definitely out of my purview.
No, I'm asking a question about textile, right? Whatever it is you're going to buy. You're going to buy, 1,000, for example, 2x4s. Are you going to pay the same price buying 1,000 or if you buy one?
No, obviously it's going to be cheaper when you buy more.
You buy more. When it comes to electricity and water, I don't know about trash, but those two are one of the only industries where the more you buy, the more you pay per unit. You're not saving money by buying more. Review your kilowatts and how much you're paying. All the different increments that you have, for example, I don't remember the numbers, but let's say 0 to 100, right? You're paying, for example, 40 cents per kilowatt. You use 100 to 250, you're paying now 60. You're not saving money.
Yeah, I know, it's getting more. It's getting more.
And I remember this because back in the days when I was considering getting into the solar and roofing industry, I was reviewing it and studying. I'm like, why is it that the more we buy, the more we pay for it? Whereas if you have a gas station, if you buy 200,000 gallons a month, you're paying less than if you buy 100,000 gallons a month, or if you buy 50,000. Whereas with electricity and water, the more you buy, the more you pay per unit, which doesn't make sense to me. But so let me ask you this, since I was asking about as far as the state demanding or having any funding for the city. For example, with the 16 lands you guys have where they're trying to push that into the SLA, and one, I guess, caveat to that is you have to build affordable housing, which, again, for example, let's say if it's a 500 unit building, right? 25% typically has to be affordable housing, and 25% of 500 is 125 units. So say you build the 500 units and you're renting it out for $3,000 a month, the 375 that are regular rates, and then the 125 are affordable, so it has to be less than that. Is the state subsidizing the difference between, for example, if you're renting the affordable for $1,000, the regular ones for $3,000? Is the state subsidizing that $2,000 a month per unit for the developer to build that, or how is it making sense for the developer to even essentially lose money because they're not charging $3,000 a unit now? It's only $1,000 for at least 25% of it in order to even get the bid from the city, right, to build.
I actually would use maybe a different kind of property for an example for that. Say, take our density bonus that comes down from the state, because again, that property up there is nobody's considering 500 units. No one's thinking 500 units. No one's proposed 500 units. Even our consideration for a change of any or an overlay of zoning to it is not 500 units. It's much more modest. And again, city doesn't have an interest in developing those at the moment. But if, say, a developer participates in density bonus, essentially they get to build more market rate units in exchange for building more affordable. So the idea here is that maybe there's only allowed for you to build 400 market rate units. Now you're going to build 500 with some affordability, and that extra 100 maybe is, or whatever number that is going to offset that the discounted price for the affordable units. And then there's a lot of equation to go into that because you have low, mid, workforce housing. There's a lot of different various levels for affordability.
So is that property going to be is that property continue to be owned by the city, or is it going to be sold to somebody, or what's going to be the plan if in the future something entails out of it?
City has no interest in selling these properties, none at all. That's been part of discussions. If you go back to some of our future council dates, we are looking at some of the properties in downtown that maybe are a little more, that's where development is more appropriate, I guess you could say. And our interest is to ground lease those properties so that we retain ownership of them. We have control over them. We have control of what gets built there. We don't want to see something that's not compatible. And even with this discussion of Montrose, with this overlay zone that caps out at 87 units, that may not even make it past certain points of the study. We don't know yet. The point of what we're doing now is try to get that feedback from the community, and we're hearing it. What we want to do is just make sure that the community is giving us feedback based on what that plan is proposing, not things that aren't real, that aren't out there as potential concerns, if you will.
And besides you overseeing the study, who else is involved in this?
In terms of the city?
Yeah.
We have a long-range planning team that handles projects such as this. We present, updates to council every now and then, and there's kind of pivotal points throughout this process where we go to get public feedback. Eventually, when we put together our environmental review, that will also have another public feedback phase as well.
Can we, Joe? Is our number up on the
No,
YouTube?
but I'm going to be putting it up right now. The lines are going to be open.
Can we do this? Can we go to a sponsor and then come back to calls?
Exactly. That's what I was planning to.
Oh, what a guy. What a guy.
You
guys,
can do it, Joe.
You can do it, Joe. We did it, Joe. Today's show is sponsored by the law offices of Armand Gregorian. If you're injured in a car accident and need proper guidance and representation, reach out to the law offices of Armand Gregorian, 1-818-404-0333. All right, guys. Phone number is right there, 1-844-321-NUTS. Do we have any callers as we speak right now, Joe?
Yeah, we actually do, but let me patch them through.
All right, wait. Before you patch them through, how much time are we giving callers? Because the one thing we don't want to do is we want to be able to at least get to certain people, but we don't want you sitting on the line for like 2 hours. 5 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the question.
All right.
As long as it's not redundant in the same questions, we'll,
How
we
want
wanna
to
make
make
sure-
like the city, like 3 minutes?
Yeah. Don't ask Bradley what flavor ice cream he likes.
Yeah, and don't worry.
That
we're
might
not-
be an easier question.
Imagine we follow the Brown Act and we just sit here to ask the question, and we'll in the comment section.
All right, we'll be back after these messages.
Yeah, we'll respond in the comments.
Okay, we got a caller coming in.
All right.
Lines are open.
To accept, press 1.
There we
To
go.
send a voicemail,
Is it a call from prison?
Yeah.
To accept.
You're live on the White Nuts.
You are live on the Wise Nuts.
thank you. I had to turn off the TV. I know that Mr. Calvert knows me. I'm Beth Brooks. I sent you an email, and I wanted to just, say that I'll be honest, the reason that the public is confused is because while Mr. Calvert is a very nice person, he's confusing people. If you listen to what he just said, does anybody understand what he just said? He basically said, we're studying it, we're looking at it, we don't want to do it now. What people want to know is it possible that those parking lots will be turned into large-scale, dense housing? The answer is a binary question, yes or no, yes. Nobody asked if it's happening tomorrow. Nobody asked if it's happening next week. It can happen. The determination of land as surplus goes to the state. According to the state, the city only declares land surplus if it has an intention at some point in the future, could be tomorrow, could be 5 years from now, to sell or lease that property.
Well,
There are
Beth,
certain
that's one of
policies
the.
and regulations.
Sorry to cut you off, but that's one of the things that we kind of brought up to Bradley. Was is this something that's inevitable? I mean, are we at the mercy?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. He's. There are many semantic gymnastics happening here. It's like saying to somebody, you know what? We're taking away your office. We're changing your job title, but you're not fired. Okay, I'm not fired this minute, but guess what? We're studying to see whether we're going to replace you in your job. And after we have a meeting, it could happen. Bottom line, you're leaving. You're probably leaving, and this is the first step. You cannot we don't need him to reassure people. That's damage control. That's about the reputation of the city council and the city to not have the public be outraged. People need to get in the first step. This is the first step. We all woke up and we looked at Central and we said, oh my God, where'd these buildings come from? Well, the city actually has a public now who's awake. And we see what's happening. And we see that you can't play word games with it's a plan, it's a study, it's a this, it's a that. This is step number one. Declaring the land surplus is step number one. To the state, it says you're going to sell it or lease it. Now, if there's some plan they have, this could be like a transfer between city agencies. There's all these like convoluted little exceptions, also called exemptions. That's irrelevant. They can be sold or leased. They can be very, very large. They can go up to 300 units if they choose to, if the city council decides to declare certain of those properties. Like I said, the parking lot behind the St. Gregory's Armenian Church, the properties by the Civic Auditorium. Right now, they don't seem to qualify, but I don't know what the city has planned for those properties.
Okay.
Whoever wrote the document that the city council used on March 4th to determine whether these lands would be surplus or not, I think his name is Mark Berry, said we'd like to investigate this to see if you could build 300 units on there. So just let us know in the future. People don't need gaslighting. People need yes or no. Can they be sold or leased? Yes. Does Mr. Bradley have a crystal ball that he knows what the next city council has as an intention to sell or lease them? He cannot sit there and say, we don't want to sell them. We have no intent. Who's we?
Got it, Beth.
New people could come in and June 6th. Who's we?
Got it, Beth. Thank you. Thank you so much for the call. We're going to get back to Bradley really quickly about that question right now.
Thank you so much. Take care. I love you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. Turn down the Bluetooth right now so that if a call comes in, it doesn't buzz us in.
Yeah, we got that. It's all taken care of.
I know. I just wanted to make sure. All right. See, Beth's question goes back to what my question was. Is this, and again, as transparent as possible, is this something that's inevitable?
I don't think it has to be inevitable. And us declaring surplus land does not obligate us to do any of these things. Again, our intent here was to hopefully, if something did change, if there was an inevitable out there from, say, the state perspective in terms of pushing down those regulations, that hopefully we have grandfathered something in place now. It's not a regulation that maybe has a bigger impact on us. She's right. I don't have a crystal ball. Absolutely not. But I think what we've learned from other state regulations that have come down that we weren't prepared for, that we weren't forward thinking about, this is us trying to think in advance. And what I'll say to that is, look, if the public or the council, whoever, if anybody doesn't agree with the city's approach on this, this is what we want to know. I'm not here to push this to say I'm trying to convince someone to follow this path. I just want to make sure that the correct information is out there. And if the public doesn't think this is a good enough strategy, or if ultimately the council doesn't either, we'll pull back. We'll change it. And that's ultimately going to come down to their direction. But this is something that was a legitimate concern that we have, that we might lose additional control when it comes to development. But again, the city could develop it today if they felt like it.
But we're not. All this information comes down from Sacramento. Mm-hmm. If Sacramento turns around and says, hey, Glendale, you got to build something on there, and we turn around and we say, well, you know what? No, we're not doing it. We have spoken to our council. We've spoken to our citizens, and our people do not want this. What's going to happen?
That is one thing I probably can't predict. I think what our goal is now is to try to avoid a situation like that and kind of operate in good faith that, look, hey, we are taking affordable housing seriously. Maybe we don't always agree with all of their approaches, but we are taking it seriously. We are giving it consideration. We are giving it a look. We're doing this with properties all over the city right now. But it does not mean it's inevitable. I think for us, it's trying to position ourselves in a defensive, protective position so that we do retain local control.
Is the council for or against this project or potential project?
When you say potential project, you mean that property being developed?
Possibly in the future? Because look, the reason why I'm saying it is because we've seen how these political figures come into office and they say, well, you know what? I promise you X, I promise you Y, and I promise you Z. And all of a sudden, none of that happens. And then ABC hits you and you're like, holy shit, bro, I just voted for this person. And they said they weren't going to do this, but now they're doing it. And then they turn around and say, well, it was the state and can't do anything. We're going to get fined and they're going to take away funding. I'm looking at this as it is inevitable. I think it's really going to happen. But the individual that we have in council right now, we have Artie Kasakian, we have Vartan Garabetian, Ellen Asaterian, Dan Brotman, and Ara Najarian. So I think Ara, Ellen, and Dan are up for re-election if they're going to be running again. Now, again, I don't know where their position is on this. I haven't heard the city council meetings, but let's say, for example, all 5 council members say, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. Is there repercussions for going against the state?
That would depend on the rule and the regulation that they may pass down at that time. There I'd be trying to forecast if I could. But there have been, if we're not abiding by the spirit of the law that the state has passed down in regards to housing, then they will let us know, and they'll let us know what those repercussions are. But that could vary depending on what that situation is.
See, this is why it's so important. When we have conversations about assembly members, when we have conversations about senators, congressmen, all these people that are involved up north, right? This is why it's so important to make sure the people that we're voting for up there have our best interest. When they come out and they start doing their little campaigns and all that, you want to make sure whoever's out there isn't for this high density and affordable housing stuff. Vote the right people in, because whoever's up there right now is.
Yeah, but we have to understand who has the final say. Is it the city council, or is it, for example, you, or is it the people? Who has the final say? Is it the state? Because I remember even, when was it, last year, the state of California was suing the city of La Cañada because they don't have apartment buildings, right?
Affordable housing and apartment building, and they lost. The city of La Cañada, the people lost.
So now they're forced to build affordable housing in La Cañada.
Yes.
So somebody who spent $5, $10, $15, $20 million to live in an affluent area like La Cañada could potentially have a 5-story building next to their home
with affordable housing.
Yes. Right? How does that make sense? Do we not have enough land in California to build affordable housing? We have to go to every single city.
And I think that's the position we're trying to put ourselves in. Right? We've done what we can, what we should, what we've needed to for affordable housing. And is it enough? Probably not. Are we done? Probably not. And I don't think this city, the city council, the community, our department, none of us are against affordable housing. I think we're against those kind of situations, though, where it's not placed in a location where it belongs necessarily, where it's not disruptive to a community by its scope, its scale, its transportation impacts, things of that nature. What we're hoping for, what we want when we look at this project or we do anything else, is we want to work in a more collaborative approach. I think in that regard, that you're not applying the same rule to La Cañada as you are to Glendale, as you are to Los Angeles. We're all 3 very distinct and different communities, and those same rules can't apply in all of those places. And I would say that we've had some progress in our conversations from the state, but when you ask, who has the final say, I guess it depends on where we're at, right? In this plan, the city council has that final say to tell us, do we want to change directions from what we're studying now? Do we want to change directions from what we're proposing? Do we want to keep the charge going? And that's why we're out here doing our public engagement period, is to get that feedback, give it to council, and then that way they can make an informed decision based on what the community said.
I'm glad you said that. So picture this. Sorry, you have 3 council members that are up for re-election, potentially, if they run for election. So you have 3 seats open. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your opportunity to vote in the right people in order to have your best interest. Who are these candidates going to be? I don't know, but this is a topic that needs to be brought up to every single candidate that's going to be running for city council next.
We have a bunch of callers calling in, so the lines are open. And
lines are open. Can we take the next? Oh, actually, you say what you're going to say.
See, going back to Beth, I think the concern with Beth and many others is that anytime where we're studying this, the study always leads to something. I think because you can't say, she's expecting a yes or no response from you, which you obviously cannot. Today maybe it's a no, but tomorrow it could be yes, and that's the concern. It sounds like the citizens of, for example, like Beth have. Mm-hmm. It's that the study is going to lead to, well, the study makes sense. It's not going to affect traffic that much, so yeah, why not build this whatever number of units at this parking location? That's the thing. Can you reassure, or anybody reassure the city of Glendale, that the residents of the city of Glendale, that no, we do not have any plans
at least the people of Montrose?
Yeah, because here's the thing. And with those studies, are you able to go to the state and say, listen, we've done the studies, we don't think we could build, for example, potentially 500 unit here in Montrose or a 200 unit here. It's just traffic is going to be too much. The city can't, whatever, the water power can't support it, trash can't support it, so and so can't support it. Can you take that, or is that study only done to support so you can sell to the people as far as why it's okay to build here?
No, I think that's an excellent point. And we've done this in other regards, and that's the beauty in these kind of studies, is that hopefully, if that were to come, right, we heard something from the state in terms of how they wanted to push any specific change, we could hold that up and say, we don't have the capacity, right? There are plenty of housing bills. There are plenty of very heavy-handed bills that have come down that we as a city have opposed. SB 79 is a good example. In fact, we did 2 versions of our opposition to it where we got very specific. And in fact, they started working with us to amend the language to that bill. And I think that to that question, that is one of the useful elements of this, is that if we study it, it doesn't mean we're going to, it doesn't mean we have to do it, but maybe it gives us the information to say we could never do it, right? We don't have the capacity for it, at least not right now or not for a while. And what I would say is, I know there's a lot of concerns, especially when people see a study, when they see pictures, when they see writings, when they see renderings, they think it's a done deal, right? It's just going to move along. And I would go back to 2018, and the very first presentation I gave to the city council, not this current one, but a different one, was for the South Glendale Community Plan. It's a study just like this. And there were 3 alternatives. There was a no change. There was another alternative that had slight changes to development regulations and rules, but not an increase in density. And there's a third one that had a massive increase in density in downtown. We did not go with that option. We studied it, but we did not go with that option. Again, I think when you see the studies, it concerns people, but it doesn't mean that just doing the study is going to mean it's going to happen. Right?
All right. Joe, do we have another call?
Press 1.
Yes, we do. We have a bunch of calls, so let's take it quick, please.
Okay. You're live on the Wise Nuts. Who's calling in?
Oh, how you doing?
How are you, sir?
Doing well. I had a couple questions. If I could just ask Mr. Calvert, and I'll go back and forth if you guys don't mind. Is that okay?
Define couple questions.
Less than 5. So I guess my first question is this: the density that the city's proposing is 50 dwelling units per acre. That density right now is denser than the current densest density in the city, which is 43. So why does it make sense to put 50 dwelling units per acre right there adjacent to some of the oldest single-family neighborhoods in the city, as opposed to putting them in downtown, where the downtown specific plan is, where all the infrastructure is, where all the transportation is, number one. Number two, the declaration of the land as surplus. Surplus land, as Beth pointed out, is only required, a city is only required to declare something surplus if they have an intention to sell, which you've said there's no intention to sell, fine, or lease for a period of more than 15 years. So if you don't have an intention, if a city, if an agency doesn't have an intention to either sell or lease, then there is no obligation to declare anything surplus first. Secondly, you've taken a second step, which is proposing an overlay, which allows you to build, in the case of Montrose, 50 dwelling units per acre, where right now you could only build 14. And on the lots along Verdugo, 50 dwelling units per acre, where you can't build any right now. Right now it's zoned special recreation. It's intended for open space for public and private use. So you've taken 2 steps towards developing multifamily housing. And every time you've taken the step, you've said, but we have no intention. So an average person looks at this and says, you're taking 2 very clear steps towards development. And every step of the way you keep saying, we don't want to develop anything. Well, then why are you taking the steps? Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
I think that concern about the steps leading to something is a very fair consideration. Again, us declaring surplus land, there were some parcels that say we're in downtown that, yes, we do have an intention of putting on an RFP and seeing what's out there, right? See if there's some interest. In the case of some of these other properties, when we spoke with some outside consultants, we had concerns based on their feedback. They're working with the state that if we didn't do this sooner rather than later, the rules could change. And that hopefully if we declared now, It would lock in rules that applied now if the state came in and pushed down regulations.
Kind of grandfather it in, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it is trying to have a crystal ball, look into the future. We don't know for sure. It's us being in a defensive position. But in that case, it was not to position ourselves to begin this process of trying to develop them. We have no direction from council to do that. Council has given us direction to come back considering the downtown properties. In fact, you'll see in September, we do have an RFP coming to look at one of the smaller lots down there to see if there is an appetite for that kind of project, because that is an area where it is appropriate for that kind of growth. I would touch on the density really quick as well. The 50 dwelling units per acre is not the highest density the city has. Tropico has significantly higher. There's other locations that have 73, 87 dwelling units per acre. Our downtown is pretty high as well. This is nowhere near those. I know there's some AI renderings running around a 7-story building showing up on some of these properties. That's not real. You would not financially, economically be able to build something of that scope and scale and height with this small amount of units.
And this is the rendering that basically was right behind the Montrose Strip, right? That fake rendering that was out there?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
What was your other question?
So this land is currently the one along Verdugo, specifically. Those lots are currently zoned for recreation. Special recreation is the current zone. You're proposing an overlay which would allow 50 dwelling units per acre. You've also taken a prior step in March of this year to declare the land as surplus. Again, you will only declare it surplus if you have an intention to sell or lease. Even though you're saying there is no intention, but there's no obligation to list this land as surplus, and yet you're doing it. And you keep saying that you're trying to grandfather it in. Explain to me specifically how this is going to be grandfathered and protected against some state crystal ball legislation that you're coming up. How are you giving us assurance that this is being protected? And if you were to protect it, why are you protecting it at 50 dwelling units per acre? Why not protect it at 5 dwelling units per acre?
What I would say with the declaration, again, it's not with the intent to do something with all these properties. Some of it, again, is to try to grandfather. Do we know if it's going to work? We don't. It's us making our best effort that we can there.
But he has a valid question there. Why declare it a surplus then?
Because our concern, and based on our conversations, was that if we weren't kind of grandfathered, if we hadn't already made that declaration, there was concerns that we wouldn't be kind of grandfathered into it. Again, we don't know if for sure that's going to work. But again, us declaring it does not obligate us to do anything.
And who were these conversations with?
We had some outside consultants we had spoken with. I don't have the names off the top of my head. It was a while ago. But it was various companies that we had discussed who we were going to bring on board for other real estate activities that we do in the city. And that was kind of the feedback we had received in terms of their engagement with SLA. And then in terms of why the number, just because the overlay district has 50 dwelling units, it doesn't mean that's what it will be. What we do in environmental reviews, and this goes back to that point I made about the South Glendale Community Plan, we have that very high end development potential, is that we're testing the system, right? I may put that 50 dwelling units per acre in there, and then I do the environmental review, and I find that the water, the power, the public safety are too much or disrupted too much. Maybe it comes out entirely. Maybe that number could be lower, but we have to start somewhere, and we have to. Typically, when we do these kind of studies, we set the bar higher, the number higher, so we can test the system as far as we can. But again, we may very well find out that 50 is too much. There's no magic science behind that number of 50.
But what if it's the opposite, Bradley? What if it comes out that 50 is actually it's more than enough?
We didn't run the environmental analysis for something higher.
No, I know. Right? But hypothetically,
we'd stay at 50. We would. That's because that's what's been in the environmental report. That's where we have to stay there, because that's what was studied. Otherwise, we'd have to go back and do it all over again if that number were to be considered higher. And I don't think there's not an appetite, there's not a desire from the council, from the community to set a higher number.
Okay. What's your next question, boss?
My next question is, who are these consultants? Because these consultants have some crystal ball that we really want to see. So who are these consultants? What is the crystal ball? And give us specifically how this is going to grandfather us in and protect us. We want to understand it like we're kids.
I'd have to get the names of who we worked with. I don't have that on hand right now. But again, it's not an exact science. We don't know for sure. It's us being in a defensive position rather than sitting on our hands and not doing anything. We had that concern, and it's a valid concern. We've seen this happen. I've been here for 7 years. Density bonus program has changed, I think, 5 times in that. We see this constant kind of reinventing a lot of these rules and regulations that come down.
Did you have any more questions before we let you go?
No, guys, I appreciate what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you, brother.
for calling in.
See, my concern is going back to this gentleman's question, who these consultants are. Are they all LA-based consultants?
Yes.
Why aren't we going outside of Los Angeles County and bringing consultants in from maybe Orange County?
Is there specific projects?
Not that there's specific projects. We were recently in Orange County last week. We went out there for an interview. And when you drive into Orange County, it feels like a completely different, it feels like you're leaving California for some reason. The streets are wider. The buildings are built properly. There aren't high rises everywhere. And if there are high rises, they're in just specific areas. Residential flats are residential flats. Downtown is downtown. And Orange County has something going for itself. The people love living there. The traffic is amazing. And by traffic, it doesn't mean that it's just congested. It's just there's proper flow. Why aren't we going outside of Los Angeles and bringing in consultants from better areas? Somebody from Newport, somebody from Laguna Niguel. Why does it always have to be LA based? Because I remember you guys brought somebody in from Santa Monica. It's like Santa Monica has to get their shit together before they come to Glendale and decide to fix Glendale. Sorry, excuse me for my French.
No, it's absolutely true.
Am I lying?
And I think the reason why the viewers or city people are concerned and want the names of consultants is because ultimately they want to know, okay, are these consultants, more pro denser cities and unaffordable housing, or are they against it? Or are they being funded by somebody that
we don't know if they're credible?
Yeah,
right?
we need to make sure.
Yeah.
I think
that's a fair question.
That's probably one of the reasons why they're asking to find out who these consultants are, because ultimately, a lot of issues that take place, you start digging into it, and you find out, this consultant or this organization is being funded by so and so, who has this agenda, and now all of a sudden you understand, okay, now it makes sense. Okay, we need to fight against it.
Yep.
Whereas if you know what their intentions are, what their track record is, you can be put at ease, like, all right, this is not going to happen with our city. This is not what the intentions are. So I think that's what the concern is of some of the viewers now and this last caller as well.
Arnold, didn't they at one point bring consultants from New York?
Why would you? Didn't they bring somebody from? Why are you bringing somebody in from New York? Again, there's nothing against you, Bradley, but it's like, dude, why?
It sounds fancy. Yeah,
I think it was for the bike lanes, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, don't bring anybody from Amsterdam. Bring him from New York. New York. How many bicycle riders are there in New York?
A lot.
4?
No, a lot. What are you kidding me?
Where?
Because there's a traffic light at every single block.
We'll talk about the bike lanes as well.
Stand is falling apart.
Is it really? Stop messing with it.
Well, I'm trying to lock it, and it's
do we have another caller in, Joe?
Not yet. No,
right, guys,
there was 1,000 callers coming.
I know, because we could hear the beeping in the back. If anybody's interested in calling,
Roses now, we got 1,000 callers.
Yeah, 844-321-NUTS. Call us in. Is there any more information? Because I want to get the public's input as far as what their concerns are about Montrose before we move forward on it. Because again, not to put you on the spot, Bradley, but we still haven't gotten a definite yes or no. It's more of a. I can't blame you because you really don't know what's going to happen. But at the same time, can we at least ask you, are you for or against it?
That's a difficult question, actually. I'm not for it. Let's be clear. And I don't think that, I think everyone recognizes the uniqueness of that area, right? And we don't want to change that. That is why we kind of throttled the number that's being studied, but also why the city council and staff has not recommended to move forward with any sort of consideration for development there. Again, us declaring SLA, the question kind of kept coming up, is not positioning us to do something. It was a defensive position. Does it turn out to be the right one? I sure as hell hope so, especially after all the stuff that we've gone through here. But this is exactly what we want to hear back from the community. If that's their concern, that they're worried that later on down the line, something's going to happen, even if we gave a little bit of flexibility here. That's great. Then that's the concerns that we can share with council, and then maybe that changes what happens in this study, because it is just a study right now. It's not even a plan at this point. It's just a study. It's a draft plan that still has to run through environmental review. I don't think that very high density housing is appropriate in that area. It does not make sense. Typically, when you do affordable housing, you put it close to job centers. You put it close to major transit centers. Neither one of those things exists there. It's not an appropriate location for that. Council has expressed no sentiment to want to do anything with it. Our recommendation is not to do anything with that property. Right now, it's a study, we believe, from a defensive position. And based on this feedback we get from the community, that very well could change this plan. What I would hope, if we're moving on to another subject here, is there's not a development proposal. There is not 500 units being considered. We are just in a study phase. We are accepting public comments. In fact, we had a window that was going to close. We have extended it indefinitely for now. We want to keep getting this feedback. And again, we're not here to try to sell this idea. If the community does not like this at all and doesn't like this, either what's being studied or even the defensive position, great, tell us. We are going to log that. We're going to catalog it. We're going to give that back to the council. That's going to be considered as part of in our environmental review as well. Our job here is not to sell this, but we are studying it. We are considering potential changes because of that kind of defensive position we find ourselves in.
There you go.
Now, Beth had mentioned also, she's like, how she mentioned about Central Avenue, where I don't remember when they initially started building, but there was about a 3 to 5 year period of time. If you had left Glendale and come back, you wouldn't recognize Central Avenue. You'd be like, where am I? Right? Because there was so much development. So looking back at that, I don't know if you were in the city back, because you came in 2018, right? Those were already built. Yeah. So looking back at, let's say, some of those projects, or even there's the Sears building, old Sears building there on Central, which I've heard there's talks about, again, residential, affordable housing and all that. How were those decisions made back then? And what have you guys learned from it? And what's going to be different this time around?
That is a really good question. And I think it actually goes back to, and maybe helps with the community as well, and trying to understand the process and how council and staff respond to some of these concerns. There was a plan, the downtown specific plan. I don't remember the exact year that was created. It was before I got in here. That was encouraging higher density downtown. It made sense, right? The idea at that time was to create an 18-hour city is what we call it. So there's a lot of activity for an 18-hour window, right? People work, they play, they live here. And we have achieved that. I mean, downtown is a thriving environment. Whether you agree or like it or not, it's a thriving, attractive place to be. But what happened, ironically, was the night before I had my actual final interview for the assistant director position in 2018, the city council put a moratorium in place to pause all development in downtown. And it was because there was a dissatisfaction from the community, from the council, in those developments not being emblematic, I think, of what people wanted to see in terms of the quality, the design, the public benefits that went along with it. And the first task we had here at the city was to reinvent that downtown specific plan. You couldn't build any residential in downtown for about a year. And we went back and rewrote that entire plan to make sure that future developments looked better, provided public benefits back to the community. And that was really in response to what people were very frustrated by, because it did change dramatically. I think there was 3,500, 5,000 units that were built in the 3 to 5 year window then.
Yeah. Joe, if there's no callers, let's go to the next sponsor, and then we'll come back and we want to dive into the Sears building and some other projects that are possibly coming up.
Coming right up.
Are insurance companies giving you the runaround? Don't settle for less. Public Assist fights for you, not the insurance companies. To get the maximum payout on your claim, whether it's for fire, water, or property damage, call Public Assist today and tell them the Wise Nut sent you. Get what's rightfully yours. 818-242-0998. 818-242-0998, because you deserve every single dollar. The Glen Arden Club. If you're interested in networking, cigars, scotch, and a great environment, reach out to us. We'll connect you to the boys at the Glen Arden, and you'll become a member here. Smoke with the Wise Nuts, smoke with a great network, and build your network. All right. So Another topic that we want to jump on is the Sears building. That is a historic building, correct?
It is not.
It is not.
The South Glendale Community Plan did not define it as potentially historic.
Was it historic at one point?
No, it was not listed.
So it was never a historic building. Okay, so we cleared that up because a lot of people were talking about that building being a very historic building, and it falls into the historic category, and it shouldn't be demoed.
What I would say is that there was, depending on the path of that project at the time, council was interested in what we would call building forensics. Let's see what's behind the facade that's on there. And there might have been an older material, maybe something that was more historic. The initial survey that was done, I believe it was in 2016, 2017, maybe even before, did not consider it historic. But council was potentially, what we can do with plans, the director of community development, myself, or the city council can instruct somebody of a large scale project to go and investigate this further. They want to see it, and that's part of the environmental review process, actually. Now, the interesting that happened, and this really kind of goes back to those concerns of state rules that come in. A bill we didn't see coming, AB 130 came down and basically said if you're not already on the register as historic, we can't even ask you to go and do additional work to find out. That project gets to move on a fast track to be developed, and ultimately that project will. It won't have to go through that additional environmental analysis that we thought it was going to, that we had instructed, the council instructed them to do, because a state bill came down and changed that almost overnight. This was one that we really didn't see coming.
And how long has that Sears building been empty?
Oh, it's had to be.
Was it pre-COVID or during COVID?
I think it was right before or right when COVID. It's like 2020-ish, maybe,
so
2019.
So for 5 years, it's been empty.
Yeah.
And off air, we had a conversation about it. The plans are set. That building's going down, right?
Ultimately, if the owners and the developers decide to move forward with the project, they are still going through a review process with us. But they had received a stage 1 approval. Previously, they're not going to have to come back with the environmental portion. They will have to come back with a stage 2 design. But as of now, all indications point to them moving forward.
And what's the plan? What's going to be built there?
That's going to be largely residential. There will be some commercial at the street level, if I'm not mistaken, but it's 600 plus units that will go into that space.
How many floors up?
Varies. I want to say it maxes out at around 6 or 7. In some locations, round it out to around 5, 6.
So 5 to 6 units, commercial underneath, residential
levels.
up top?
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Say it again?
No, 5 to 6 levels, not units.
I'm sorry, 5 to 6 levels, a commercial on bottom, residential on top. And is this including parking or no parking?
It does include parking.
Subterranean?
Yes. Well, no, I believe part of it's subterranean, and then if I'm not mistaken, some may be above. I'd have to look at the plans.
Because that Sears building includes that large parking structure behind, which there's obviously restaurants on Orange that utilize that parking space for valet and stuff. So are they going to continue to have parking, or what's going to happen there? Because as I mentioned, there are restaurants there that utilize it for valet, especially that banquet hall.
Mm-hmm.
And that banquet hall, and you know how Armenian events are, man. I've
been to a few,
yeah. You get 200-300 people in a banquet hall, and these people need their cars parked. If there's enough parking space, now that's going to cause a little bit of a bigger issue.
So we do have one city garage right next door to that.
Yes.
The city garage. What I would say to that is right now, whatever parking is being done in that is a private transaction between the owners of that property now and those business owners. I don't know if they'll carry that forward in the future. But right now we have no purview of what they do in that garage. That's privately owned. They decided they were going to start kind of renting out the spaces, if you will, or charging for them to be used. Mm-hmm. But that's a private transaction between the two.
So this goes to my next question. Anytime a restaurant is open or some sort of banquet hall is open, in order to get a certificate of occupancy or a conditional use permit or anything like that, you need to have a certain amount of parking spaces in order to operate that business. You have a banquet hall now. And I'm sure they got some sort of CUP in order to operate that banquet hall. Same goes for the restaurant next door. If that owner right across the street decides, you know what, Mr. Banquet Hall owner, I'm no longer going to be leasing you this parking space anymore, what happens then? Can that banquet hall continue to operate, or what's going to happen?
That would depend on the agreement. If there's conditional use approval was dependent on them having a parking agreement with somebody, they would have to come back with another one somewhere else. That likely is not the case there. It is downtown. Downtown does have more flexible parking requirements to it. But again, I'm going to go back to that kind of conversation about the state regulations that come down. Even when you get outside of downtown, AB 2097 allows pretty much any project that is not a stadium or assembly use to skirt parking regulations. We had a medical office building being proposed right in the middle of downtown with 0 parking. And that's because they can take advantage of some of these regulations that have come down, and our parking rules don't apply. It's an unfortunate consequence of more of those pressures.
Yeah, because when you think about it, it's like, all right, you built that banquet hall, you were able to justify the parking. Now, if that parking is taken away, can you now justify it?
Well, there's another parking also on the other side. I think it's a B of A or
yeah. But again, remember, this is all shared parking with a bunch of other restaurants.
No, I understand, but if the agreement says that, or the contract says that, as long as you come back with another agreement with, let's say, 50 cars guaranteed or whatever that ratio number is, then if they allow it,
I hope so.
I would think why would they take the CUP away? Because if that's the case, then no new developments should ever happen, because whatever my conditional use permit is and the parking requirements, now all of a sudden some other building is built, I lose my business that I've been operating for 20 years.
Well, I'm not saying lose your business, but do we have a call, Joe?
We do.
Okay, I'm not saying lose your business, but what I'm saying is, are there going to be steps taken where these people will continue to operate and not worry about possibly being shut down by the city? That's my biggest concern. Which, again, I know the city of Glendale is for helping not only homeowners but businesses continue to operate and work with them in order to continue as long as they're compliant, right? Right. We have a call. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that those kind of projects, it's a circumstance, by situation, right? It could be different in a lot of different situations because we're dealing with unique circumstances. That's why we have a conditional use permit.
Yeah.
But I don't know that exact one. For that one.
We got another call coming in. You're on the Wise Nuts Live.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're on the call.
Hi,
Go
can
ahead.
you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Damien. Bradley knows me. I'm one of the folks that is very involved in historic preservation efforts and things like that with the city. I frequently speak before the city council when I've been at all the meetings regarding things like Sears and the buildings on Lower South Central, the Craftsman homes that now have burned on fire and they're going to be torn down. My question is, with regard to Sears, part of what Bradley was referring to was that 2 years ago at the beginning of these presentations by Merlone Geyer and Trammell Crow and the developers, it was brought up by almost all of the council members that they wanted to see what is beneath those facades from the 70s, which are the original streamlined, modern Art Deco features that have been photographed from the inside of the top of the tower that are absolutely under there. You don't even need to remove the facades from the outside. The historic original 1930s building that's beautiful is underneath there. And whether that has been changed by the new regulations that allow them to move forward or not does not erase the absolute fact that is a very historic building that actually is one of the main companies that put this city on the map. It is literally it was the equivalent of the Galleria and the Americana in its day. There were live broadcasts. It put Glendale as a commerce center on the map. Now, if we can develop forward and build the 682 or whatever number of units there that doesn't mean that the city council and the city should roll over and allow, as they said 2 years ago when they saw the plan and kicked it everywhere because it was aesthetically very unappealing to everybody, and it was a throwback to what they did on Central with the other fast casual, architecture. Do we not have levers that we can still exercise as a city to not allow these outside developers to just come in, do all the taking? And they stood up at that meeting 2 years ago and said, "We're not going to honor any of the history. They spoke to their commission studies that said." Teresa Grimes, the historian, wrote a report that said there's nothing historic. Rather than be good partners with the city that you're coming into and developing something responsibly, every other city around America, Houston, Boston, even Santa Monica, we are the only city that is tearing down our Sears Tower, and we have the most historic prototype one. Can we not still allow these developers to develop their project, but then literally use the levers that we have to coerce some kind of honor from them and partnership with the community so that they are saving the corner tower piece, build the development, but honor the historic fabric of the city, and don't just take. And second part of that question is, those same developers stood up and said, we don't want to develop any restaurants or lower retail because it won't make a profit for them. But that, again, just like Central, leaves the city with all these apartments that, the city people that live in the residence in the very specific downtown area get nothing in return but, to walk around a very, place that looks like it's just abandoned.
So, David, correct me if I'm wrong. You said the building is historic? Or what's built behind the building?
Yeah, listen. The word historic, we can play with the word historic all day long because, as Bradley knows, historic is a very vague term that there are different classifications of how a city decides to recognize or not. A city can be, this particular building, the Sears building. If you see all the pictures of what's under there, and it is under there, the glass blocks in the tower and all of the beautiful 1930s touches, they're there. They're still under there. But what Bradley is saying is, they don't have to now even investigate it. All of the council members at the time, you can watch the meeting and you'll see Paula Devine and everybody saying, I want to take the facades off. I want to see what's under that. Well, that changed because the rules changed in the intervening 2 years. That doesn't erase the fact that what Merlone Geyer and Trammell Crow are going to demolish and tear down and erase from the planet is a very historic building that's beautiful and did put the city of Glendale on the map. Should that not be honored? And they're going to tear down a square box, a shoebox, and they're going to put up a less quality shoebox with their apartments. Would it not be better for everyone, a better relationship with the community, to be somebody that doesn't come in and take and demolish and leave and take your profit, but to come in, get to build your giant project, but then also honor the city by leaving the corner part of the store there, put the Sears sign on it, what every other city has done, adaptively reuse that historic piece of a past link to our heritage. Is that not a smart thing to do? Because every other city, from Houston, you can look, Boston, they're all doing it. They're saving the Sears Tower and building them into the project.
What are your thoughts on that, Bradley?
I definitely don't disagree about the opportunity to integrate something that's already there. The problem is that we don't have a legal mechanism to force anyone to do that.
So from my understanding is obviously the Sears Tower right now, or the Sears building, the old Sears building, has that white stucco on it. So when that stucco is taken out,
it's all the concrete that's behind.
Yeah. So there's another structure behind it.
And what was going to happen previously is that the instruction was going to be in kind of a limited. Well, actually, no, that project I think had to go through a larger environmental review, but was to look at that. To find out what was there, if it was historic, because the survey that was done previously, again, somewhere between like 2016 and 18, if I'm not mistaken, did not define it as historic or potentially historic.
Well, as Damon said, he said historic means a lot of different things.
Yeah, it is.
So
subjective term in a way.
Is it protected under historic?
That building is not protected. I know, Mr. Sullivan has come in many times to speak about that, and he had a very fair recommendation there to either further investigate it as part of that review, which now is kind of scuttled by AB 130, but also the ability to incorporate it into the design. Let's find a way to maybe save that corner feature. Totally makes sense. I believe one of the examples he has from Houston does that very well. We just don't have a legal mechanism to require that. And with some of the changes that were made, I definitely don't have the ability to go and force that on any proposer. And
I'm assuming council voted unanimously for this?
They at the time they went through the stage one, the direction was to go and investigate the potential historic nature of it, to investigate it further. And again, with some of the changes in the rules, that this may likely is not going to happen.
So it's going to be a full demo project.
Most likely.
That's unfortunate.
So when you say legally, you cannot, for example, you can't say, okay, we're approving the project, but this is the contingency or whatever.
With conditions, I think.
Conditions on the corner being saved.
Yeah, but those conditions have to be rooted in some sort of legality, right? It can't be something I just arbitrarily apply to.
Who owned the building prior to this developer?
I'm not sure about that off the top of my head.
Damon, do you know who owned it?
Owned that, or?
Did you hang up on Damon?
Yeah, Damon's disconnected.
Oh, okay. I wanted to, because knowing, Damon knows the history behind it. I was curious to know.
We have to continue moving on callers and
all right, that's
questions.
Fine. We have the next caller?
Well, no, that's the reason why we need to keep moving, because they keep going to voicemail and disconnecting.
So. Oh, I see. Sorry, guys. If you do have a question, just call in. Joe will tap you in. But
another question we have, though, it's very, actually, I'm curious about this one as well. Says, I know back in the day there was a plan for a park over the 134 freeway between Brand and Central. Whatever happened to that?
Oh, Space 134. It's one of the reasons why I came down here, actually, was to work on that project. It's still there. We still have a plan in place. I think part of there needs to be some more work done, some more study. But right now it's kind of a funding issue.
So it's over the freeway, actual freeway itself.
So it was 2 phases. It was a pretty ambitious and large scale project. We would have to find some sort of funding source for any kind of big public space project like that. And building over a freeway now has become extremely expensive to do.
Would you shut down the freeway at that point?
You wouldn't have to shut it down for construction. Actually, if you look, what is it on the 101? They have a nature crossing that actually went over the freeway to get animals to move across from one mountain range over to another.
But I mean, you're talking about from Central to Brand, a park
on the over the top of the
over the top of the freeway. Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's what the plan was. But you could construct that in phases where you wouldn't have to shut down the whole freeway, or maybe you shut it down for periods at night so that you could do work. It's a pretty common project that's been done around the country. Dallas, Texas comes to mind with one of the best ones I've seen. But right now, when we saw that number to build that project, finding a funding source for that is going to be extremely difficult.
I thought that was going to be a great project.
It was a
that would be interesting, actually.
A great idea.
I mean, we should do something like that over these like dirty washes, though.
We are working on a project that is considering the wash for a kind of linear park system.
Because I know a lot of people were against it. To be honest with you, I'd rather see a nice park there rather than a wash.
And we're moving on to the second phase of that study. The first was just to get kind of a basic idea what could occur there. The second phase is going to dig a little bit deeper to really find out what's possible. Look, no matter what, I cannot compromise that wash's role as a flood control channel. It has to move water out. It was built because of a flood. It's there to prevent floods. And what I akin that to is it's a glass of water and how much ice can you put in it before it starts overflowing. So we're trying to figure out what we can do. You start to get to some of those northern segments. You could actually put one hand on one wall and one hand on the other. I may not be able to do, that may not be able to do much over there. I would also say that as you get the further northern portions of the city, those are obviously far less dense areas. Mm-hmm. That may not be something that is necessarily as compatible with those neighborhoods as it is when you get further south into Glen Oaks, downtown, places like that. So there's a lot of work to still be done on that. We're just getting into the second phase of that study.
Okay. Speaking, go ahead.
The bike, over the freeway, if they were to do that, they could probably save. I mean, they could use that space for development instead of tearing down old buildings, right?
Washington, D.C. has done that, actually.
Can you over the freeway build?
It takes a lot of intense structure.
That takes a lot of concrete.
You'll be very limited in the height of the buildings that you can build, but Washington, D.C.'s done it. Seattle, Washington actually built it with a convention center over theirs.
I'm just saying we could preserve our beautiful buildings and use these spaces to build.
You create land, right?
Yeah, I guess. Speaking of 134, so right when you go through the 134, there's this amazing exit by the name of Pacific. And that intersection or that exit and that specific intersection that we're going to be bringing up off of Burchett gets pretty congested. Now, on that exact intersection that we're talking about, there's a restaurant that's been there for quite some time by the name of Acapulco. And a couple months ago, there was a proposal from a very reputable company or burger joint named In-N-Out. What's going on with that one?
That's really a good topic. And I think also goes to with some of the community concern with some of the other plans that we're moving forward where they think we're not listening to them. We are. Council actually just the other night in a unanimous vote told us to move forward with our change in regulations on how we deal with drive-thrus. That for that specific location, a very intense drive-thru such as In-N-Out would not work. I know there's been some rumors around that they bought the property. They have not. They have not come in with a further proposal. They came in with an initial idea. I think that's what really kind of ignited some of this conversation or concern around. There was already some talks about concerns about how drive-thrus would function in our city. But ultimately, we will be changing the regulations. But also, they have not come forward with anything additional in terms of an application, a formal application. We have fielded calls from the owner of the property and potential future uses there as well. And I know that obviously Acapulco is still located there too. So any conversation the in and out as far as we're aware is done.
But
So-
when you say changing regulations, that could take months or years, right?
I can, yeah.
And if In-N-Out, for example, tomorrow offers the owner whatever amount, purchases the property, submits an application, if the regulation has not been changed, won't they be granted the conditional use permit or whatever they need in order to open a drive-thru In-N-Out there, or how would that work?
Not necessarily. It would depend on where council would like to start the implementation of those regulations. Sometimes we make changes. We apply it to anything that has a building permit and up, right? If you're in an early phase study with us, you got to go back and make some changes. If you're in a pre-application phase. So where that is, those regulations get positioned in terms of what we call pipeline projects would make that determination. But again, council can set that pipeline wherever they would like to. And we've seen it go in various places within that process.
Were they looking at demo Acapulco and just build a new structure
Correct,
there?
yeah. It was going to be a walk. I believe they had a walk-up window, no indoor dining, and all was proposed, and just drive-through the rest of the way.
Oh, so there was going to be no indoor seating at all?
No.
Oh, so it's going to be all outdoor? Dude, that's a massive spot for just a drive-through.
And it is an intersection that would weigh very, very heavy on. And that's why you saw the council really responded quickly to that to bring the item forward. Staff, we moved very, very quickly to come up with those draft regulations. And that has since kind of changed the conversation around that intersection.
There was conversations of the drive-through, instead of being on Pacific, it would be over on Burchett, right?
I'd have to go back and look at the plans. I don't remember the exact organization
Because
on it.
entry and
But
exit.
I think part of it did go out on Burchett. If not
Yeah,
mistaken.
entry and exit. They were talking about entry and exit being off of Burchett. And I was just like, dude, I would feel terrible for the people living on Burchett to see a drive-through lot. Because look,
Yeah.
any In-N-Out you go to, whether it's the Harvey drive-through or the one in Burbank off of whatever it is, I think it's First Street.
Burbank exit and Grinnell.
Yeah, dude, the line is just
Spills out.
It fills out. So could you imagine that filling into a residential street, and then at the same time you get loitering there.
Mhm.
It's open late. People are, and the fact that there's no indoor eating and it's all outdoor, you're gonna have trash everywhere. So I mean, hopefully this isn't brought up to the table again. But the fact that there are, again, whispers and rumors going around that there is still conversation going back and forth with the owner of that land and the owner of In-N-Out. I mean, can we put it to rest completely? Or
There's been no formal application. We have not had any further contact or discussion. They had no application that's come in, and we have had others approach us about other potential uses where they've been in discussions. And again, obviously the existing restaurant is there. We have no further action that's occurred in terms of the In-N-Out.
Okay. Joe, can we go to another ad?
Of course we can.
Sorry, guys, we got to go do the ads. This is how a lot of stuff
That's
is.
how we pay the bills.
Pay the bill. Yeah. Today's show is sponsored by the Law Offices of Armand Gregorian. If you're injured in a car accident and need proper guidance and representation, reach out to the Law Offices of Armand Gregorian, 1-818-404-0333. Oh, fuck. Yeah, we're going to do that. Absolutely. All right.
TGIM.
The last thing we want to discuss, obviously, if there's going to be any more callers coming in, you guys are more than welcome to call. People, stop texting me. I'm not going to answer your texts. If you want to call in, call in. I'm not going to be the messenger here. You can do it. You can do it yourself. Let's talk about Glendale's infamous, multiple departments. We have building and safety. We have design review board. And we have the historic preservation.
Oh, I'm going to have to issue some clarification on a few of those things, but yeah, go ahead. I also really wanted to talk about your house specifically tonight. So,
geez.
So we'll save that for a different day. We'll do it a different day.
We'll turn the cameras off and we'll talk about my house. So you're specifically involved in obviously community development.
Mhm.
How much influence do you have on building and safety as well?
That is part of community development.
So that's okay. And okay, what about design review board?
So design review board is actually a separate authority, right? Those are council appoints members to that board who review projects. Depends on the type of application, depends on the level of review. HPC, historic preservation, same kind of setup. All of those fall within community development department. So if you're building, say, a brand new project, you get your zoning cleared through our planning division, you get your building permits cleared through building and safety. You may have to go through design review board. In some cases, HPC functions as a design review board as well.
So the big question is here, why?
Which part?
Why are there so many different departments when we're the only ones well, I don't want to say the only ones, but with surrounding cities around us, such as you have Pasadena, you have Burbank, even LA, they don't have any of this stuff. They don't have a design review board.
They do in some contexts, if I'm not mistaken.
Not a separate department.
Well, I'll say it's not necessarily a separate department. Let me explain that part. So planning and building and safety are actually a function of community development department.
Yes.
These boards and commissions work on kind of advisory capacity, if you will, to the city council. There are some cases where planning commission or HPC or design review board can make regulatory decisions, but not always. But that's usually a body that we have to pass additional things through. It's like, I understand why you think it's a different department. It's another one of those regulatory layers, if you will, in terms of getting a project through a process. And that is really a function of how the charter and how these reviews of projects are set up. Depending on the kind of project, you may have to go through several of those layers. We are actively working on changing some of those things. We actually made a change recently where any change to the rear 50% of your property and in the back does not go to DRB anymore. We used to have a lot more projects that would have to go. We've been trying to trim that down so it's getting to projects that are truly impactful to the public view or the right of way. So it's part of our process improvements, as we've been calling it.
But what's the purpose of having a design review board when this can all basically this can all be done internally with the city of Glendale's building and safety?
That's a great question. There are cities that do that. Actually, the city I used to work in Washington did that. Everything was done administratively by staff. And that may be a future conversation that we have as part of these process improvements. I know that there have been members of the community that would like to see that. The DRB was really set up, though, from the perspective of having that community input, right? They are representatives of the community appointed by the council. There are certain elements, I would say, that probably still need that public input, right? It is their community at the end of the day. We just need to figure out at what level. We have to calibrate that appropriately because we were sending just about anything in front of the DRB at one point.
I mean, everything was. Anything that you touched the front facade, it was going to DRB. A lot of people were cautious of even getting into construction because of dealing with design review board. So it's basically taking a project that can be finished in 6 months and prolonging it.
It's dragging out the process.
Yeah, it's becoming a 2-year project at that point, because anybody who does something outside of the scope of work, which till today nobody really knows what the freaking hell that means as far as outside of scope of work, but it's like, all right, I'm gonna demo this, I'll replace it like for like. All of a sudden it gets flagged. And they go, well, now you got to go to DRB. Well, no, I'm replacing it like for like. Well, no, it doesn't matter. You already did it's all the damage is done already.
We are making changes on that one for sure. That is one that we are working on. We've had to hit pause on some of those regulation changes, largely because we have a lot of other major projects, as you may have heard of, going on. But we do have that as one of those in a long list of process improvement changes to get to, and that is the like for like. If you're doing that, we're taking out any of those functions, and typically you don't have to go anyways. But we're also looking at it in other capacities in terms of when those changes were done to try to make it easier for homeowners, right? That's our goal. Like I think for a long time, our two divisions of planning and building and safety, which we actually have rebranded and merged together as one, development services now, functioned as if they were the gatekeepers, right? They were the regulatory arm that was there to tell you no or find a reason to tell you no. And I don't think because they were bad or it was wrong. That's just how they were taught the job. It's how a lot of people in those jobs are taught. We have gone through some major changes in both of those divisions. And our philosophy at this point is get to yes. How can I help you get your project done? Maybe it's not exactly what you wanted, but we can get it to a point where it's part of your dream, your vision, your goal, and that we're much more of a customer service oriented team.
Yeah.
And that has really been our focus. We've seen our permit timelines come way down. We still have a ways to go. It's not perfect by any means.
Beyond the ways to go.
I do not argue with you there. But I will say that the team that we have, especially in those two groups, they work hard at this. They bust their asses at this, and they have done a great job. In fact, you'll see in our annual report coming out, I believe, next month, we'll reflect that. I know in some cases it's not always easy. It depends on the kind of project that you have. But our teams have been working really hard, and I know that we have a lot of other changes lined up. We just need to get back to it so that we can put our focus on it.
Have we thought about extending the times as far as past 12:30 with building and safety?
You're talking about the counter times?
Yes.
It is something that we have talked about, or maybe shuffled around, and maybe we have one day where we don't even have a half day and we take those hours and spread them around others. We would have to get more staffing, to be honest with you, because having that counter, that takes somebody off of reviewing your project. Right now, we're trying to figure out how we can get more over-the-counter things so that people can get that done over-the-counter with us right there in person. Yeah. But every time I put somebody on that counter and we extend those hours, that they're taken away from the review of somebody else's project at the time. And we got to figure out how we balance this. We are investigating a lot of different tools that I'm hoping will help free up people's time to be able to work in those different capacities. But right now, it's a challenge because we are operating at a...
Have you guys thought about implementing some sort of AI?
I am currently looking into this. I had some interesting discussions just last week. It's timely that you asked that. That we do think that this could be very helpful and very beneficial to what we're doing. We just need to finish exploring it first.
Because if there's things that need to be reviewed by the human eye, as far as understanding what needs to be done over the counter, maybe AI can come in there and focus on certain things where while I'm helping Joe over the counter, AI is doing whatever needs to be done. And then when I get back to it, it'll pinpoint certain things as far as that needs to be changed, this needs to be changed. That's okay. This is okay. And that's fine.
Help them focus, right? Focus on the things that are really important or maybe we're not done correctly. But you're exactly right. It's going to help free them up to be able to do other things as well. So hopefully more to come on that. You know, if you guys ever call me back up, maybe I'll swing back by and give you an update.
See, even AI put aside, I mean, what surprises me with Glendale, I haven't dealt with personally. I've dealt with some other cities, but for instance, just a basic even tracking system, right? I submit my project, and now it's in the planning department or building and safety, wherever it is. I have to call or email or personally come in to get an update, which takes up a lot of my time, a lot of your staff's time. Is there any system that's being worked on where I can just log into my project and real time see, okay, the planner has made a comment that this is the stage we're at. Here's what I need. Now they need me to go out there and get a soil study done or whatever I need to do.
Survey, whatever.
Yeah. Instead of me calling, emailing, waiting, wasting both of our times, it just seems very archaic, the systems that are in place, versus I should be able to just go in there, log in, I have my own PIN, whatever it is, based on the address, and I have real-time updates so that it's far more efficient. Do you guys have anything like that you're looking into implementing? Or
we do kind of have that now. We have an online permitting system we launched back in September of 2022. I would say it's not quite as nuanced as maybe what you're looking for in terms of that. This is exactly where it is. Here's the exact kind of feedback, because we still have to release our comments back at a certain point. So you don't, one of the council members is akin to having a Domino's pizza delivery tracker, right? So you know exactly which stage it's at. It's being prepared.
Dude, if FedEx, Uber Eats, and Domino's could do it, I'm sure the city of Glendale could do it.
And we can, and we have it. I just don't think it's quite at that level. But that's this was a system that we kind of had to get out of the box, if you will. So we're kind of going back every 90 days and we're tweaking and we're tailoring things. I know exactly what you're talking about. We were just discussing how do we get that so you have more information, because Arno's probably emailed me like 89 times in the past month, if I'm not mistaken.
Don't drop an address.
No address. Oh, no, talk about several addresses. But I
didn't say anything.
So I had to take a shot at you. But no, I mean, he could have gone on there and seen exactly where it was, right? And I think we have to tailor that system. We have to refine it a little bit better so that you are getting that exact specific feedback.
Well, let me, you know what? I am going to bring this up. There were certain projects that we had where you weren't involved in it, but I had to get you involved. and you saw how freaking long it took for them to respond, to the point where it was like, I had to email you separately and say, Bradley, like, this is getting ridiculous. That 14-day turnaround turned into like freaking 21, 28 days, to the point where I had to get him involved, which I apologize to you several times. I say, I'm sorry I have to get you involved, but it's like, dude, staffing has to do something. People need to get off their ass. Do people not want to work? What's going on?
No, I think look, our team is fantastic. I know that it's had a reputation, and any place you go to, you're going to find maybe staff that aren't performing at a level that some would expect. But we have had a lot of changes, not only just in cultural approach, but also in staffing in general, and the kind of people that we've been very intentional who we're hiring in terms of technical background, proficiency. There are going to always be instances where things may run longer for God knows what reason. I can never quite pinpoint the exact specific reason, but I actually encourage, in the case like when you were reaching out, to do that, because that helps me find those inefficiencies that maybe people just get used to working in, or maybe it was just a unique case. We had some issues plenty of times with people submitting the wrong stuff or whatever it may be, and those applicants, the designers may not be relaying that information back to their owner, right?
Those are such minute things that can be fixed, because
that can throw everything off.
Exactly.
Though, right?
So picture this: somebody submits something and it's incorrect, right? Which had happened to one of our projects. Somebody submitted something, it was incorrect. All they had to do is upload it, look at it, say, "This isn't what I wanted." They email you back right away. Call it days, 2 days, right? Hey, it's wrong. I need you to fix it. What happens is, well, there's a 14-day grace period for reviewing. 14 days passes by. Hey, listen, that stuff you submitted, it's all incorrect. So go back and
so we actually are approaching that.
So
we are dealing with that one now.
Okay.
So I would say, we had brought in a new building official, R.S. Sargisian, a couple of years ago. He's been great in helping with those kind of efficiencies and turnarounds and technical, really understanding kind of the nuts and bolts of a review process. And one of the things he did, he started what we call a gatekeeper, as much as I don't like using that term because I don't want us to be the guardians of the code.
Yeah.
But that person reviews your application right away, and within 24 hours, if it's incomplete, and you're not waiting the 14 days, right? Because we're allowed that window. The problem is we need that on the planning side of things. We just haven't had the staffing to do it.
Is it a budget issue, or is it literally higher? Like, people don't want to apply for the job?
I think for a long time it was actually really being able to keep staff. The turnover was pretty rapid, but that has changed. In fact, I've been here again since 2018, and this is the most staff we've had in this department. And it's great staff. I know that the perception can easily be that government employees can be lazy. They're sitting on their asses. I assure you that the team that we have built, especially across those two divisions, are not that. There's going to be gaps. Sometimes there's going to be inefficiencies. Something's going to break down in that process from time to time. But the team that we have now is really good, and we just continue to refine. We refine our approach. We refine our philosophy, our culture. We refine the tools, right? So I can get a better Domino's tracking system or Uber Eats, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Because God forbid we built another bike lane on Brand or Central.
But now imagine the system that I was talking about. If you have
that had to get dropped somewhere.
Guys, we have calls as well.
Oh, do we?
FYI, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
if we have something like that in place, and for instance, if once it hits the 14-day mark, there's an alert, you're alerted. Because I don't know how many people
That's
have
a fair point,
access to you, and how accessible you are, as far as, can they just go to the website and find your email?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you don't want every single person that's applying for permit to be emailing you.
Yeah.
So if there was an alert system where, okay, it's hit the 14-day mark, you need to pay attention to that. You go out there, hey, Joe, what's going on with this project? Why haven't we gotten back to the applicant? It's already been 14 days. And on top of that, I think some type of incentivized system for them where, listen, if you do these things in 72 hours, for example, you get a $500 bonus, or you get whatever it is that you get, to be incentivized to expedite things, so that even if they're, kind of pushing through, they're being financially incentivized, or whatever type of program you're allowed to offer in a county or city type of government environment, I think would encourage people to work on these projects a lot faster than they are doing now.
That's both are fair points. Both are things that we've considered, and ultimately we'll need to explore.
Okay.
We got a caller.
You're on?
You're on?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Oh, this is Beth Brooks again. It's not about permits, but it is to ask Mr. Calvert, because everybody's been so focused on the land use elements, and the comment period was extended, but the comment period on the environmental justice element closed. Is it possible to reopen it? Because I don't think any of us have really paid attention to that. Is that a possibility?
It is. Let me look into that when I get back to the office tomorrow. That's a little bit of a different element, but there's also still the environmental review comment period coming up too. So.
Thank you, Beth.
We're going to get another caller as well. Just final two.
Final two.
Extension 1 to accept.
You're on the call.
You're on the call?
Yes.
Hi, just do me a favor. Turn down the TV.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. I had to do two phones so I could.
There you go. Well, we thanked Beth again. All right, go ahead.
There we go.
There you go.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Great. Go ahead.
So the one thing, when talking about the the design review board, there does have to be a way of streamlining. I've lived up in the North Glendale area for over 30 years now, and my husband and I bought a house here in Spar Heights about 8 years ago, and we did a little remodeling to move in. And, we went through the whole design review thing, got everything done, getting ready for our final sign-off. And after all the inspections and everything, the guy comes out and says, "Oh, your architect forgot to put the size of the garage down." And, okay, so we put the size of our garage down, which was, I think, 14 and a half feet. So the house was originally built 41. And they turned around and said, "Oh, well, that's not up to code. You need to make it 16 and a half feet, whatever the code is." And I went, I can't widen my garage by 2 feet because there's a house on one side and a swimming pool on the other. So what seems to be I want to say trick or what's going on in the city is just more permits or whatever. So I had to pay $1,000 to file for an exemption on a house that's been here for 80 years now?
80 plus. Yeah.
Yeah, 80 plus years. I mean, that's just kind of ridiculous on something that had been, our construction had been going on for months. Inspectors have been at the property site. And it only comes into play if you're doing exterior remodeling. So things like that really need to be fine-tuned, as well as, opening up hours of operations a little bit longer, because people work. How do you supposed to take off to get to the 4-hour windows of whatever odd days that you guys decide to be open?
I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you a question. Did that prolong or delay you getting a certificate of occupancy?
By a couple more weeks to go back through the process and, filing the paperwork and giving them $1,000 check. Yeah.
But were you living on the property or were you not on the property?
We were not living in the property at the time. No.
Okay. Just wanted to get clarification on that.
No, this issue, is it over or is it something you're still working on now?
Oh, no, it has been resolved.
Okay.
But,
she wants to make sure to streamline it, basically.
And we are working on a policy, what we call that is kind of legal non-conforming. We had some instances where somebody's trying to make a minor change, and then as she's describing it with her home, the garage is a little bit too small. So then either you can't make your change or you got to make this larger scale change, or you have to go file an exemption, pay an additional fee. And we started seeing a lot of issues like that where it's not really fair. We just haven't had a chance to go back and change the language in the code, but we are actually going to make some major overhauls to that area because it's not fair. Because it's also stuff that you weren't here for, right?
Yeah.
You bought the house later on.
But I mean, hers is beyond justifiable. Yeah. I mean, she's absolutely right. If her garage is built a certain way, if she goes 2 feet this way, she's in a swimming pool. She goes 2 feet that way, she's encroaching on somebody else's property.
Somewhere else too, right? It's not a garage.
I mean, see, when can we bring back common sense to? And again,
thank you.
No disrespect to the DRB. I don't want to, because the last thing I want is a red flag on my property. But when can we bring back common sense where somebody looks at it and says, all right, Mr. Homeowner, you do make sense. if you were to go this way, it doesn't make sense. If you go that way, you know what? Let me run this by upper management and get this taken care of because it's unnecessary. She just paid $1,000 for an unnecessary extension.
And I would say that unfortunately, you can't even blame DRB for that. That's really our code and the way it's written. And that's what I've had this conversation with several. I think earlier this evening we were talking about this. We have an antiquated code that has conflicts in it, that has punitive rules in it that just need to be unraveled. Right? It's like pulling a string out of a sweater and just letting it fall apart. We have a lot of stuff we need to change. That's one of them because it's written in there that you can't make a change if there's already something else on your house that's non-conforming or it's not done right. Now, if I'm doing something over here to my windows, but you're going to hold me up because my garage is 2 feet too small, that's not really, it's not fair. It's not equal.
Yeah.
And that's a major change we're trying to get to change in the code. That was something the council directed us to get in there and change. We just haven't had a chance to do it yet.
Yeah, go ahead.
So then that goes on to another part of the question of things like that go on. There's constantly people throughout the city of Glendale that are doing some sort of remodeling, especially up here in Spar Heights. It's an older area, built in the early 20s. So you've got a lot of like 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, which this house was originally, that are trying to conform it to the size family now versus why can't the city put efforts in to correct those immediate problems instead of, I'm going to throw back at, instead of reviewing the stupid parking lots of whether or not those need to have an overlay for development. It's frustrating to me where the city is putting their efforts, and they need to put in their efforts to better serve the community and not look at something of, should we possibly sell these parking lots throughout the city of Glendale to put residential housing? And whether you say it's a future thing or not, why is the city concentrating that instead of fixing the problems that affect the homeowners now where we're living?
Amen.
It's a fair point, fair question. I think way too nuanced in terms of who works on what in my department, but those are a little bit two separate tracks, if you will. Things like the in and out and trying to get those regulations passed, kind of live in that same campus, trying to help out with those regulations with the homeowners. Those are the kind of things they've been tied up with. We are going to see that loosening up more. We are going to see our teams get back to that process improvement work. There's just been some things that we had to get over that were a pretty large scale. But we definitely do understand that frustration, right? It feels punitive. It feels like we're not there to help, and that's what we're there for. We're there to help, and we need to get those rules changed so we don't see those negative impacts.
Did you have any more other questions before we let you go, dear?
No, thank you so much, guys. I do appreciate the first time I've listened in, and this has been interesting.
It's a little bit different, isn't it?
It is.
In a good way,
my
right?
husband years ago, before we moved into Glendale, was actually a land use consultant in LA. So we understand a lot more than what, say the average Joe of what's going on. And everybody needs
no pun intended, Joe.
No pun intended. Oh, sorry. Didn't realize I didn't mean that at all. But
no, we appreciate
I want any listeners out there. I just want all the listeners out there, keep up the fight. We're not going to let them take our parking lots here in Montrose.
Amen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, dear.
Bye.
What is the infatuation with the city of Glendale windows, by the way?
I wish I could answer that for you. That's another one of those things on our list that we need to come up with something. We have a handout we give on how to change your windows, and it's 19 pages long. That's not a handout. That's a manual.
Nice.
Right? And we need to get that down to front and back. We need to codify, make the rules clear and direct and simple. That is, again, one of those things that we've also put on that list. But, I often point to it as one of those things that demonstrates the inefficiencies, right? The amount of regulations and rules just to change your windows. And I think it's a testament to the things that we need to make improvements on. And I know it'll be late for you, but we will be making changes. Damage is already done. I already know it's there.
Because it doesn't make sense. I mean, as far as like the city is pushing for residents to use less electricity, less AC, limited hours, limited this, but not allowing residents to change into replace their old windows from the 50s for a modern day, more efficient window which is going to lower your electricity costs, your AC usage and everything, which in turn is what the city wants anyway. So, but they're like, well, you got to find the same window that was built in 1928. And where the hell are you supposed to find that?
Well, you know what's the funniest one? It's when you have a vertical opening window, right? And it's from like the 1920s, and it's like painted shut. You can't even open the window anymore. And if you do open it, it's like barely opening. And you want to replace that with like for like. You want a window that'll open up vertically again. They go, you know what? No, that's a fire hazard. It has to be a casement window where it opens up all the way just in case there's a fire. You can jump out. So then you turn around and say, all right, well, I'm not going to change it because I can't afford to put in a casement window. I'll just leave that one there. That no longer becomes a fire hazard. That old window, single pane, that if you smash it, and it's not even tempered, if you smash into it, it'll probably cut through freaking the steak like a freaking Japanese knife. But that's okay. And these rules and regulations just don't make sense with these windows. And first, as I said, there's some sort of infatuation with the city of Glendale and windows.
I'm hoping we'll change that, because you're not the first that's mentioned. And there are a lot of things that are just inefficient, conflicting, again, that we need improvements on. It's just identifying those and also making sure that we still retain the things that are important to the community, right? There are certain threads within these zoning codes and regulations that's why people want to be in Glendale, right? It's what makes it unique. But at the same time, we have to still be able to balance out that people make changes to their home.
Anything else, guys?
Joe,
I think we're good.
We're almost 2 hours in.
Wow.
Told you.
It didn't feel like it though.
Since we don't have any more callers, any more questions, I guess we could call it a night. Maybe we could have you back for another live episode, maybe in the near future, huh?
Give you guys some more updates, I guess. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, let me know.
Absolutely. Guys,
after In-N-Out is built.
I mean,
I wouldn't come back at that point.
I'm kidding, guys.
that means we failed at something pretty bad. So I would not be coming back.
You know what's funny? I think it was Beth, right, that called in where she was like, people don't recognize the city after leaving and coming back after a couple of years.
I said that.
Bro, I didn't drive down Pioneer and Pacific for like, I don't even know how long. All of a sudden, there's like this building that I'm like, when the hell did they build this? Literally, I was like, when did this go up? But hey, you know what?
That happened to me in Burbank. It's Hollywood Way. I hadn't taken that part of Hollywood Way in a couple of years, maybe.
What, you were taking Figueroa?
Which Figueroa?
Oh, never mind. I thought that I went to Hollywood instead.
No. And a couple of years ago, I drove by it. It's like all these huge Amazon warehouses. I'm like, when the hell did they build all of this?
Bro, you didn't see the bike lane that they built on freaking San Fernando and First in Burbank off of Magnolia or the one-way street.
Okay, because I don't drive on those streets. I take, like Bel Air, Sunset. Those are, I don't like.
Yeah, God forbid you go to your office. I'm just saying.
Glen Arden is my office.
I see. Do you guys want to dabble on the bike lane before? Actually, that's said and done already at this point, right?
Yeah,
that shit's not coming back, right?
That's probably something we can come back
to. Is there another study?
Well played. So as you know, we are working on the bicycle transportation plan. Again, our department, other departments, we heard from the community. We heard that sentiment. We actually peeled back, doing a much more in-depth analysis to make sure that what's being recommended or proposed actually works. I think that was part of the challenge before, right? It's just, to us, it's a study, right? That's becoming like the joke, right? I got a couple of the new names.
It's like the clinical studies we're studying.
And I think Councilmember Garpetian had made the comment, there needs to be a disclaimer on it, right? And there does, right? Because it is a line on a map and we don't know. That's the aspirational thing. We hope we could achieve that, but it may not work, right? And we've seen it actually not work in the actual flesh.
No
right?
shit, really.
But that one wasn't mine, so let's just...
No, thank you. I know, we know.
Where does the aspiration come from, though?
Like the consultant from New York.
I knew he was going to say it. I knew it.
I was about to say something that was going to be edited out if this was not live, and I'm glad I bit my tongue.
It could be the feedback from the community. It could be direction from the council. It could be all kinds of things. Depends on what the involvement and what the proposal is. But typically that feedback comes from the community. I think that what we saw when that implementation went in its flesh, it didn't work out that well, and it changed the sentiment for other things in that plan, which is why we pulled that thing back. We're going to make some sweeping modifications, come back at a later date with it. But again, try to be a little more pragmatic, I guess you could say.
Bro, I was just curious. All those people that were for the bike lane that were going to those city council meetings, why weren't they riding their bikes on Brand Boulevard? That place, that it was empty.
Well, I don't think LA is a bike culture city.
Well, no, LA is. It just, if you want to ride your bike, go to the beach, go to certain areas where transportation via bike is more common. I mean, you go to Venice, you've seen Venice Beach, Santa Monica, Huntington.
But
all
that's
these
not.
years we've been riding bikes on the streets. I've been like, do we really need bike lanes?
No, when I say it's not a bike cultured city, meaning you can't commute to work on your bike. Yeah, you can go to Venice, you can go to the canyons, wherever near, Griffith Park.
Bro,
and,
it's an excuse to slow down traffic. That's what it is.
But it's not a bike. The city itself, I don't think, is designed for commuting via bike, because everything is so spread out. I mean, you're gonna ride your bike 4.5 hours to get to work, and then work for 9 hours, ride back 4.5 hours, just sleep at your work, and you don't need bikes or anything.
Pitch a tent. That's call it a day.
You're Feel right at home.
Yeah.
I just don't think the city's laid out for
I'm telling you, the best part was right off of Stalker when that bus was trying to turn into Brand Boulevard and just leveling out those cones, slamming into cars. And I'm just like, whose idea was this?
Well,
I mean, I know whose idea it was, but
they would have just implemented new technology into buses where the tires can just.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What are the rumors? Okay, one more thing, Bradley. Sorry. What are the rumors about Glen Oaks turning into 2 lanes on each side?
There's currently a project not a study. Project
that's already passed, guys. It's being done.
It's not
no longer a study. Get ready for this one.
It's in design. It's not a Glendale project though. It's the Metro. LA Metro is creating a plan for a BRT from North Hollywood to, I believe it's Pasadena, maybe South Pass, and that goes through Glen Oaks. And what I mean by BRT is bus rapid transit. It's a dedicated lane just for that bus. Part of their plan calls for that dedication to be made on Glen Oaks going both east and westbound.
So from where to where?
I don't know the exact starting point off the top of my head, but going down Glen Oaks until you get to Central, it would have its own dedicated lane once it enters into the
practically
city.
To Alameda.
Yes, correct.
So from Alameda all the way to Central, we're losing 1 full lane on each side.
That is the current proposal. I know that council has had some discussions about, do they bring Metro back in to have some talks about it. I don't know where that stands right now. I know that they are in a design and engineering phase, but that project has also changed over the time as well. There used to be some protected bike lanes proposed in there, which because of space, we're not, I think, are not moving forward right now, or at least not in the way it's designed. So I don't know exactly where that's going to end up. But I know that, if I'm not mistaken, council has asked for Metro to come back and present it one more time to council at a certain point. I'd have to check on that. I could follow back up with you.
Find out when that's going to be, because we'd like to at least make an announcement so people could tune in and call in and give their
I think they're still
input as
doing
well.
public meetings sometimes as well, if I'm not mistaken, just some feedback on the design, because the route is set. Now you're just getting to the nuts and bolts of the design.
All right.
I would be concerned about the BRT in relation to SB 79.
That is a very fair point, a very large conversation.
Yeah. It's like, well, now we have BRT, we need more dense.
Yeah.
There's some legitimate concern in there, and I will say the city has pushed back in opposition. We've had conversations where it just came out of committee. I haven't had a chance to read where it's at now. But we had pushed pretty hard to have some changes made based on our local context, and they had made some amendments. I don't know if they've stuck. I know they've also made some carve-outs as well. I just don't have the full details right now. I haven't had a chance to read it. I think it just came out of committee on Friday.
These bus lanes are going to get approved, and then they're going to build 700 units over Legacy Butchery and 7-Eleven.
See, and this is how my job is made difficult right there. That right there.
That's it, man. That's it. Simple. It's simple. And then all of a sudden, right over Roberts Hall, they'll build another 700 units on top of that one. And so half of it will be affordable housing, half of it will be Section 8, and call it a day. Boom. bring in some more people to Glendale. Bradley, thanks for taking time out of your Monday to be with us, man.
Thanks,
we
guys.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody else, wisenutspodcast.com. Our merch is available, as we mentioned. The Wise Nuts shirts, the throwbacks, the Epstein didn't kill himself. Those are all available as well. And they're under $30.
And happy Labor Day for those of you that work, right? It's Labor Day today.
Frontline workers.
Frontline workers. And,
Thank you for the...
And happy birthday to my brother Arson. It's his
Oh,
birthday today.
happy birthday, Arson. Guys, today's episode will be up and running on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms mañana. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't liked this video, please like it. Share it with your friends and family. And we'll see you guys all next week.